With the theme of this panel being family, community, education, and enforcement, I'm really curious to know what our panel perhaps thinks about the role that family and community play in influencing the behavior of youth, and how perhaps those different stakeholders could be the first contact points that can either encourage or detract individuals from drinking. What has your experience been from your various areas of expertise? And I'll open it up to anybody.
I can start.
All right.
I think family and community play a very important role as being influences to a child's behavior. They often set up behavior patterns. And if I had to give you an example, when I was a first-time mom, like 12 years ago, I didn't realize that I used the word shut up and I cuss quite often. And then I saw my 3-year-olds implementing the same behavior. So when I looked at her, my first reaction was to want to reprimand her. But then my second thought was, where did she learn this? It's not her dad, it's obviously myself. And what I learned is that I needed to change my own behavior, and automatically, without reprimanding her, she picked up on my good behavior. So it's a learning experience. And I think that even when it comes to underage drinking, if parents abuse alcohol, they're bound to pick up those trends as well. So even the research shows us that if parents don't look at their ways of drinking and they look at their own consumption in a moderate and responsible way, then there's a high risk that the kids are also abusive of alcohol.
Pamela, what was your first engagement, not Pamela, sorry, Sihle, what was your first engagement with alcohol, and what age were you at, and who were the people that you were looking to as, role models or influences that maybe encouraged you to take your first sip?
I started my first sip when I was, I think, 14 years old, with friends. As a whole, if you want to be part of the group, then try this and do this and let's go this way. Instead of focusing on your studies and listening to the right friends, that's what happened to me.
I see. And you're part of almost 20% of young individuals. Stats are showing that about 20% of our youth are having their first sip of alcohol at the age of 13. 13, 14. And when you think back to that time, was it something that you were hearing for the first time, or were the behaviors even at home that you had seen? It was just at school?
It was just at school. With his friends and everything. At home, there was nobody that touched alcohol or has been in any type of behavior like that. So I was the first, and that's why they were so surprised. Where did you learn that, and why alcohol?
Yeah. And considering how strict schools are, Shireen and Anthony, what do you think are the loopholes, or where are the barriers that maybe are not as stringent, where alcohol is being consumed on campus and maybe young individuals are getting that first encounter with it on the school premises?
I think earlier on there was reference to high-risk schools that we choose. Now, high-risk schools are it's actually schools within high-risk communities, or communities where there's, social ills, violence, and so on is rife. And that would be our most at-risk schools. We've got about 200, the last scan, we've got about 275 of those schools in the province out of our the schools that we do have. We try to do a kind of an ICU on 65 of them, schools in areas that are at the highest risk. But it is then those issues within families, communities, that invariably spills over into the schooling environment. And what becomes also problematic is even, the issue of liquor outlets quite close to the school. So invariably then you see that violence, be it gang-related, be it domestic or other violence, spilling over into school, which would necessitate that in many instances with SEPs, as well as we'd have to conduct random searches and so on. And, many learners are caught within. I mean, if we try and take learners to a camp, for instance, to help them, you know, one of the first things you have to do is actually just start searching the buses. You know, and if you have them in a camp for a day or 2 or 3, invariably once you've contained that, then there's a whole range of behaviors that come out. So the spillover is very real, and you know people, young people especially, with the risk behavior that they do have, you know, they would find all sorts of ways, and it's problematic, yes.